Marketing in the home services industry has changed so much over the past few decades, and at an even more rapid pace these last few years, almost to a point it's impossible to keep up with what's trending. Have you ever felt like marketing in today's economy is like flushing money down the toilet? That's where we come in and help honest home services companies just like yours learn and understand some of the most effective marketing strategies today. Strategies used by some of the top home services companies around the world. My name is Javier Lozano Jr., and welcome to the Trust Tipping Point Marketing Podcast. Hey guys, this is Javier with the Trust Tipping Point Marketing Podcast. Welcome to our next episode. I've got a really awesome guest here. His name is Christian Harris. He's the founder of Slip Safety Services out of the UK. And so Christian comes to us from the UK, where he's got a lot of experience in the flooring industry. And I'm not going to take any of his thunder, so I'm going to let him kind of introduce himself and let us know more about him. How you doing, Christian?
I'm good. Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. Been looking forward to having this catch up with you and getting into the weeds in some of these cool topics. So yeah, it'd be good.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So a bit about me. So you know my name and the business, but we work in the safety and risk management field. Basically, we help people to reduce the risk of one of two things: either slips and falls, which is the biggest cause of accidents and injuries and claims in most sectors, or the other thing that we do is around kind of surface hygiene safety, which is obviously really important right now with the pandemic and stuff. And over the last 3 years, to give you an idea of the kinds of things we do, we've prevented over 3,000 hospital visits and saved over £30 million of claims, which is probably about $50 million.
Wow.
So
it's a fair chunk of change, man.
Yeah, fair chunk of change, but still, 10 million of claims for slips and falls is only 0.5% of the total claims in the UK every year. So, it's good. It is a big number, but actually, in the context of the whole market, there's still a way for us to go. What some of the stuff we're going to talk about today is really driven by some of the challenges I've had of kind of selling in a not very sexy industry, I suppose. So we can kind of go through some of the stuff that I've done to kind of try and overcome that.
And that's what's interesting too, is because when we first connected, this was right before the pandemic really kind of like took off last year. You reached out to me via email. You found my podcast that I was with another company. And when I first responded back, I was like, I'm in the US and I can't really help your business, but if you want to be a guest and you're all into it, it's like, yes, I'm all about creating content. I'm like, all right, you get the game.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of been chatting since then, and this was the right time to get connected. But I love that you're all about, putting yourself out there, especially like what you said, in an industry that's just, it's not really super attractive. I'm not knocking you. It's just, it's a weird conversation,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, for me, you've got to put yourself out there nowadays, because I think every company should kind of look at itself as a media company in many ways. So I think everybody should be doing digital content. Everybody should be doing articles. Everybody should be doing some videos. Everybody should be on social media, not going overboard and like spending every second of every day on every single channel. But like, I think you should have, one channel that is your social media platform, and then the other ones you can kind of use to maybe signpost to your main platform. So I think, it's about, and I know you believe in this, but it's about, putting yourself out there and just being visible and valuable. And that's how you're going to get business.
Yeah, no, I can't agree with you more about that, especially when what you just said about, becoming a media company. That's a new term and a new thought process that some companies aren't used to, especially if it's an older generation where it's, the company's been handed off or whatever, and they've done things, a certain way. But I agree with you. Like, that's something that we all have to start thinking ourselves a little differently. And the most important part is that it's so accessible. It's so easy to create all this media, not like what it was 10 years ago.
No. Well, I'll give you an example, a live example. So I've been launching a new product targeting the insurance industry around the world. So it's a digital product, but that's by the by. I spent last Saturday the whole day basically creating a pitch video. It's like a 9-minute, 45-second video. So scripted it all out, recorded it, did some screenshots, graphics, and all that stuff, and put that out there on Monday and Tuesday. And already this week, we're not talking huge numbers, but I've sent it out to maybe 300 people. It's had like 50 views on YouTube.
Nice.
But that's hyper targeted, going at the right people, and 50 people have viewed it. I've had how many sales calls have I had? 10 sales calls. And I've got more booked in for next week. And that's spending time on this digital asset and crafting it and stuff. But actually the point is that because it's a video, video is the best form of content. It's like the alpha version of content, because you can use all the senses, and that that's a really powerful way of getting that message out there. But I know it took me a day to do it, but actually that's generated a lot of inquiries, and also now it's done, that asset lives there forever, and it can be leveraged, and so it's a really good investment.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. That's what I love about companies that understand that marketing is really it's changed a lot over the years, and now is one of the best times to like what you just said, become a media company, to deliver and create assets that are valuable to your customer base. And this is the whole point of the trust tipping point, is that like what you're doing is you're building trust for your audience, so they start seeing more about you, and they start learning more about you, and you're taking them through this journey, and you're guiding them, and then all of a sudden they're like, you know what, I'm going to call Christian, I'm going to call Slip Safety Services so I can inquire more about this, that, and the other. So I love your approach on that, man. So what I wanted to do is I want our audience to know that what we'll be covering, we got 3 topics that Christian and I are going to be discussing a bit more. And so these 3 topics are really unique, because I see his stuff all the time on LinkedIn. So like I see his stuff, I either comment or I like it, but you do the same thing with me. Like we have that kind of same respect for each other.
Yeah.
But the thing is that I love what you're doing in this industry, which is something that it can easily be transformed into like the home services. So if you're in landscaping, if you're in HVAC, if you're a plumber, like you can do all these things. Like this is not just a slip safety only kind of thing for Christian. It's for everybody else, So, the first topic that you mentioned that you wanted to cover is essentially like leveraging thought leadership, personal branding. And especially in the industry, like you just mentioned, not so sexy. And so kind of explain more about that. Like, tell me more about this whole thing.
Well, I think, you hit the nail on the head with the trust. So it's all about trust, particularly when you're dealing with a kind of safety topic. But yet, everybody knows about the issue, the problem that I help to solve, but it's not really that high priority sometimes. So I think you've got to put yourself out there and try and disrupt and give insights and just get people thinking about things a little bit differently. Today, for example, I was on a webinar for the cleaning industry, and I was making the points that actually, and this will be relevant to the audience, if you think it's about cleaning, you've missed the point. It's not about cleaning. It's actually about creating a high performance environment. It's about delivering a great customer experience, which drives revenue and profit to the business.
Yes.
It's about engaging with and retaining staff, so you get lower cost of recruitment and so on and so forth. And it's about safety. So the cleaning, the typical kind of cleaning industry, it's just cleaning, it's driven by price. That no longer, that's not the prism, that's not the paradigm we should be talking about. We need to be talking about something bigger. So that's kind of what I've tried to do is the kind of expression of like, you don't buy a drill, you buy a hole in the wall.
Yes.
And thinking about outcomes. And actually I focused a lot on that probably 2 years ago. It was very much like outcome. But then more recently, I've kind of decided that it's not about that first outcome or even maybe the second outcome. It's actually the third or the fourth outcome, where you start to kind of amplify these things up and they become bigger and bigger, and that's when you start to get that kind of resonance with the market. So it's not about having saving the time of mowing your own lawn. It's actually about having your in-laws round and they like it, and that builds your relationship, or whatever it might be. But it's kind of thinking about what's so what, and trying to get to that real either pain or actually ideally some kind of pleasure that people want to get towards.
You're hitting all these things that it's resonating with what we do with our agency. And this one of the things that I learned through a book that I read called Expert Secrets from a guy named Russell Brunson. And one of the things he teaches about this new opportunity, and you kind of are essentially talking about that, like about the whole cleaning thing. It's not just about cleaning. It's about the experience. It's about what makes you different from everybody else. It's not about, having the lowest prices and maybe yours, kills more germs, but like, so does somebody else's. And so you're almost taking it to that next level where you're almost like you have no competition in a sense, and that you're trying to create your own lake, if you will, to fish out of. Am I right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've been inspired by a guy called Daniel Priestley, who he's authored many books, but his probably most well-known one is called Become a Key Person of Influence.
Okay.
And I'd really recommend that. It's all about being visible and valued in your industry. So the premise is that within any industry, the top 5% is where all the money is, all the opportunities are, all the fun is, and that's where you need to be. So what he says is you've got, if you're not a key person of influence in your niche, your full-time job should be to become the key person of influence in your niche. And then that's when things start to get really fun and exciting, and cool things happen, and you can start making an impact and stuff. So I've been really inspired by that. So, a lot of his kind of philosophies I try and put into place as best I can.
That's awesome. And that's a really good way of putting it, is that if we get, we don't want to be like water for everybody. We want to be, a specific type of water. Maybe it's Voss, maybe it's Fuji, but like you get narrowed down a little bit, and then you really become like that's, what you're saying, that influencer, what you're talking about. And so something I want to kind of ask you and maybe clarify for our audience too, is that we all hear this term like thought leadership. We all hear this term like personal branding and pitching. Like, what is your definition of that kind of stuff? Like what do you think of it when you hear thought leadership, and then how do you put it into action, or the same thing with personal branding?
So what I think of when I hear thought leadership is really boring articles that people think are thought leadership, but they're really not. But what I try to do with my approach is I guess to it's all about just trying to disrupt or inspire, or you just want you kind of want people to have an aha moment, or I hadn't thought of that before, and actually it's just about like sort of dropping a little nugget that they're not necessarily gonna, you're probably not going to find somebody reading one of your articles or watching a video and then picking up the phone and saying, please, I want to give you $1 million worth of business. But actually it's all like it's all just a little nugget here, a little nugget there, and just about positioning yourself to be the guy or the girl, the go-to person that actually, as and when they're ready, they're going to come to you. Because I think it's only, I mean, I'm not a sales expert, but I'm sure I read or have been told that like only 3% or something like that of the market are looking to buy right now. So you've got 97% that are there, and that's a much bigger market, but it's a slightly longer game. But that's where this kind of content and putting some stuff out there really helps. And I think you've got to have some personality and you've got to have an opinion, and that's how you can stand out. Because if you think about what I do, there are other people who have maybe even a greater technical knowledge about how to make floors less slippery, equal or greater than maybe, but actually if they don't have an opinion, if they don't stand for something, if they're not putting themselves out there, then actually I would expect that I come across more credible, more likable, more trust, as you say, and therefore I'm in pole position.
Yeah, and that's what I love what you're discussing is that again, you're becoming that guide for your future buyer. You're just helping them check off certain boxes of skepticism that they may have about you. And that's, I really believe that a lot of companies, especially in the trade industry that deal with residential, you got to almost be a spokesperson. You got to be that person that just is in front. You got to be a personality like what you're talking about, because what that's going to start bridging the gap between of like, who is this person, to like, oh, I see them a lot, to where, oh, you know what, I actually believe in this person, what they're saying, and then all of a sudden you carry a level of authority.
Yeah.
And that's huge. I mean, that's part of the whole personal branding. I mean, and how you do it on LinkedIn is impressive, because you're not touting about all the great things that you do.
No,
You're just sharing
nobody
knowledge.
cares. Yeah, nobody
Yeah,
cares about what I do.
exactly.
They care about themselves and where they want to get to, and
Yeah.
so they you know, and again, all this stuff, like I'm saying this as if it's blasé and it's water off a duck's back, but it's, you know, I've been doing this for years, and it's, you know, this is all a big journey. So hopefully this will help people to accelerate that journey for themselves. But yeah, nobody cares about what I do. They care, you know, they need to believe that I know what I'm talking about. So having some social proof and
Yep.
stuff is good, and having an opinion is good, and
Yep.
having credibility. But actually, what they really care about is, can I help them to achieve their objective, whatever their objective is in their life or their business, or ideally both.
Yeah. And you know, that kind of, you know, adds something to like our next talking point that I want to share with I want to share that you brought up with me too, is that, you know, what you're trying to do is, you know, creating that credibility, you know, that you have an opinion. And essentially what you're doing is like, when you're trying to generate more, you know, opportunities for your business, there's companies like ourselves, we do this, we create lead magnets. We'll have some sort of
Mm.
like, you know, free widget, and you're like, hey, give me your email address and I'll give you the widget for free, you know? And so your approach is different, which I found it unique. And I want you to kind of, share more about that, is like,
Yeah.
you basically just kind of give it out for free. And that's another level of what you're creating that trust with. So explain
Yeah.
more.
Well, I mean, I've tried lead magnets as well. I think, you know, my approach isn't going to work for everybody. Just as, you know, not every, you know, you can't take a sort of consistent approach to every market, every sector, etc. You've got to be thinking about what your market needs. But
Yep.
my view is that, you know, the market I'm looking to serve is quite specific and quite niche in many ways. Even though, you know, every single building could have a slip, and every single building could have a cleanliness and hygiene issue. You know, the people that are actually most likely to buy, it's not a huge market. You know, so
Mhm.
I think trying to get in front of them, and also because what I'm talking about is safety, and you know, it's kind of it's not a topic you can be too salesy in. So I kind of just feel that you know, trying to be a bit too pushy with give us your email address and stuff is a bit too quick for my market and my particular sector. So what I try to do is just give out like tons of value for totally for free with no expectation, like you're doing with your podcast. You know,
Yeah.
there's no give me your email address to listen to the podcast. It's just putting out there as a free gift for people,
Yep.
and basically just try and get the widest possible distribution for that. And that, if you think about, I don't really like talking about funnels, but if you think about the funnel, you know, the classic sales funnel, the more distribution, the more reach you can get right at the top, then, you know, the more chance that, you know, you lose a percentage here and a percentage there, but eventually there's going to be more people at the bottom, in very simple terms. So I try to give stuff out freely, and basically look for people who express an interest, and then I'll try following them up and try to move them to the kind of next step. And again, that's something that I've learned is not to, you know, not to try and sell the full solution, you know, straight away, but try and move people that next step, or that next rung on the ladder. So, for example, you know, if we can talk about LinkedIn later, but there's a thing on LinkedIn where it's like a premium version called Sales Navigator, and you can have these
Yep.
things called smart links. and basically it's like a landing page, but it'll tell you exactly who's looked at the page. It'll tell you how long they've looked at each area. So if I have a 10-page document, I can see that Dave Jones has looked at it for 5 minutes, and he spent 3 minutes on page 1 and 30 seconds on page 2, and so quite a lot of data. But anything like that, anybody that expresses an interest and I can see has consumed the content, then that to me is like a pretty good indicator of interest, and then I'll try and follow them up and engage with them, and not in a salesy way, but in a sort of let's have conversations, see if we can help you way.
That's interesting, because what you're doing is, I mean, the podcast is our version of what you just talked about, is us giving free content. Like, we want to help our industry expand and improve on their marketing, because like, let's be honest here, a lot of people in the trades industry, whether it's flooring or HVAC or plumbing, they probably do really good work, but they have no clue how to market correctly. Not all of them. Some of them are really, really strong and they do a great job, and others are just, they focus on their trade and that's all they do, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But what you've done is, if you've taken it to, like what you just said, to that next level where you're writing articles, you're creating a video like you did this past Saturday, and then you're sharing it to X amount of people. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to give, like you're depositing money into the bank.
Yeah.
And then eventually you're like, okay, I'm going to ask for a withdrawal. I mean, that's kind of what you're doing, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I think also just trying to be quite soft with it, because I think it's one of these things. I'm in this for the long haul. I'm playing the long game.
Yep.
If I was 58 and I wanted to retire in 2 years, I'd be doing things differently, I think, because I'm not, I wouldn't have that long-term horizon. Actually, all these deposits in the bank today, the podcast, the videos, the articles, the whatever, I see those as I think I used the word earlier, as assets that actually will sit there forever, and people can consume and will build the valuation of the business, and the value of leads and interest, and just grow the kind of pipeline over time. So I look at it as a bit of an investment, I suppose, in the long term, and but again, it does depend on your industry, and some things you can be perhaps a little bit more. I think if we look at it from I know this is about marketing, but if we think about sales, I know that I've got a weakness when it comes to sales about following up, for example. So the more, and that's because I don't really want to be too salesy. So the more I can do to kind of get people almost pre-sold, because they've gone through the content and they've kind of learnt about what we stand for and what we're up to and all this good stuff.
Yep.
Then actually, hopefully, I don't need to follow them up as much, because I'm not very good at that. So perhaps I'm just trying to hide my weaknesses.
But here's the thing though, like I love that, because there's this thing about self-awareness. I mean, you and I are big Gary Vee fans, right? And he talks about this whole self-awareness thing. Like, you got to be aware of like what you're good at doing, where, what you probably need help in, where should you focus on? And then you almost have to like, exploit your strong, make your strong points sit out there and leverage it. And so that's kind of what you're doing is that you're selling, but you're doing it in a way that makes you not look like you're a salesperson. You're just, hey, I'm just going to give you some more information. What else can I do to help you with? And so my question is how long did it take you to figure that out? Like, where instead of doing lead magnets where you're like, give me your email address and I'll give you this, this piece of content, to where you're like, screw it, I'm just going to give it out and then just see kind of how this happens.
I think it's a gradual process. And I think, for me, it's been a journey over a few years, to be honest. So it's not like all of a sudden you wake up one day and think, oh, that's the way I'm going to do it. Because you've got to experiment, and what works for me might not work for you, and vice versa. So I think you've got to throw enough stuff at the wall and see what sticks. But this approach kind of, it sits innately within me that I feel comfortable doing it this way. So that's good, because then I'm authentic, and then that comes across. I think it sits nicely with my industry, and as I say, it sits within playing the kind of longer game. And also, my with what we do, it's service based like your audience, but it's kind of probably higher ticket. So we don't, one sale, for us is worth quite a lot. So therefore, we can invest time in trying to nurture and build a relationship to get a sale. Whereas if we were selling, a fountain pen for $1, then we wouldn't, we'd be going broke.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And that's huge to understand that, like what's your time worth, on what you're trying to do, as far as nurturing them and staying with them. I mean, like in my opinion, like, you could almost say like HVAC, or I keep referring back to HVAC, but that's something like if it's cold, like you want someone that knows how to fix your heater correctly, and so you got to kind of build that trust and nurture them and take them through that process. And it's going to take a little time. And
yeah,
you're doing that with what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think the best way to achieve that trust is, well, the very best way, of course, is if your best friend refers you to somebody that they've used that's really good. Of course, that's the best way. But I think the second best way is by putting yourself out there and doing some content. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to sit at home on a Saturday like I did and spend all day creating a video. You can do something on your iPhone that's authentic and just actually do things like the top 3 tips, or like actually a good tip would be, I've just gone and done a job in someone's home. This is what I found. These are the problems they had. Here's the solution we came up with. And that's just a real life, almost a case study. You're documenting what you're doing, and bringing it to life. And I think things like that are really powerful as a sort of marketing tool.
And I love that you said that, because I have these conversations with people that say, well, I don't know what to say. I'm like, just say what you just told me. Like, you just told me that there's these 3 things that they could have done to fix this. Make a quick video. And they're like, well, it doesn't look professional. Like, but people want that. They want the authentic feel. They want the John Smith just pulling out their iPhone and be like, all right, I just went over here and did this.
Particularly if you're in home services and you're not a multinational, all singing, all dancing company. Because actually, if it's your business and it's your brand, and they're effectively buying you and your trust, then actually just giving that authenticity is really, really valuable. Because people, as I say, with a video, it comes across. There's something in the human brain. So think about Princess Diana as a good example. So how many of us met Princess Diana in our life? No, very few of us. How many of us were really sad when she died? Like the whole world. Why? Because we'd spent time with her. We felt like we knew her because we'd seen her on TV so many times and in interviews and stuff. So there's something in the human brain that doesn't distinguish between, like you and I, we've never met in person, but we've chatted quite a lot, and I kind of feel like we know each other a bit.
Exactly.
There's something in the human brain that doesn't distinguish between a video and a real life face-to-face thing. So that's why video's particularly powerful. The other thing that's good is if you're a bit nervous about video, you can get these tools. Like I use one called Otter, otter.ai, which is like a transcription thing. So you don't necessarily have to go and pull out your iPhone and record a video, but you could go back to your van and just explain what happened into Otter, and it transcribes the whole thing for you into like a Word document, and then you can literally just spend 10 minutes editing it a little bit, and then you can post it on your blog or whatever.
That's genius. And that's I'm happy you're saying this kind of stuff, because those are things first, I didn't know about that tool, but second, those are tools that people can take advantage of, because they're not excited to be in front of a camera. You just got to find what
that one is free. I think you can do something like 10 hours a month, which is a lot. Really? If you think about transcription, that's a lot. I think it might even be more than that, and it's really good. it's a really good quality of transcription as well. It needs a bit of editing, don't get me wrong, but it's 99% there. So like it's a really pretty much all my articles I ever write, I use that for two reasons. One, speed, and two, I think you should always try and write as you talk, because otherwise you end up kind of it's very easy to like end up writing kind of flouncy long
Yes.
sentences with lots of prepositions and all this stuff, and then it's not readable. So it's better if you just jot down your ideas. What I do is go for a walk, because that kind of gets my brain going, and
Uh-huh.
I just kind of talk it through, and then it's by the time I get back to my desk, it's already in a Word document, and then I just edit it a bit, and then it's done.
That's awesome. I love that. I mean, I might actually have to try to do that myself, because I don't mind writing content. I enjoy it personally. However, there are times like what you're saying is that like, I don't want to sit down and dump what's in my brain. I just want to say it.
Yeah,
And because it's in there, I just don't want to sit there and type it. And the other
yeah,
part, you're completely right, is we get into this whole like, jargon where we're using these industry jargon terms that no one knows what the hell it is. If we just talk like normal people, all of a sudden everyone's going to understand what you're talking about. They're going to relate with you, and that's huge when it
yeah,
comes to communication.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so do you want to go over anything else on that part, or are you good?
I was going to say the only other thing I was going to say is, and again, this comes from Daniel Priestley. He inspired me about this. And this is a big jump. It's just something worth putting out there. Write a book. It doesn't have to be a proper book like that's 3 inches thick, but if you can do, even 15,000 words in like a mini book, and
Uh-huh.
you can have that book published, that is like the ultimate credibility. If you think about the word authority, it's author riti. So it's historically, being an authority about something is because you've written a book about it. So if and if you think about using otter, if you could be talking for 20 minutes a day, you could get through like 1,000 words a day. Within the course of a month, you've got a book in the first draft. You edit it down and stuff. But I think I'm putting a book out this year, and my plan with the book even is to be almost giving it away. I'm not
Uh-huh.
interested. I'm not writing a book to sell copies of a book. I'm writing a book to give myself more credibility, to send something through the post. Imagine if you're, you know, the head of safety for whatever company, for
Yeah.
Walmart or something, and you get this book through. Well, there's something about books that you're going to read it, or you're going to at least flick through it, and you're not going to
Yeah.
just throw it away because it's a book. And actually, if somebody's sent you a book that they've written, that demonstrates a huge amount of time and effort and clarity and professionalism and all this good stuff that we want people thinking about you.
That's
So,
awesome.
even that, think about, could you write a book about, whatever your area is? Think of an angle, think of some point of view, like we said earlier, some opinions, and just do something, because actually, that will pay for itself, the time you spend doing that
Yeah.
many times over, I'm sure, with leads and work.
Oh man, that's huge. I mean, that right there that's worth the entire podcast interview, man. Just giving that little piece of information. That's huge. I love that. And that's something that I've always actually wanted to do is write a book. But now using this app, I might have to download it myself and start
Yeah,
taking advantage of it. Because I agree with you. Like when you do that, that's a new level of authority, a new level of being on top. So
yeah,
which now kind of leads us to this next thing. We've got this thing where we met. I know you sent me an email, but you did some searches and whatever on podcasts, but we're connected also on LinkedIn. And
yeah,
so you are extremely active on LinkedIn. I mean, it makes sense in your industry because it is a business network.
yeah,
Some people kind of still have a misconception that LinkedIn is what it was 5 years ago. I was one of those guilty people up until about almost 2 years ago. And now I put most of my time and effort into LinkedIn.
yeah.
And so you use that as part of your marketing strategy. So explain more.
Yeah, so going back to what I said earlier about social, I think you want to have one key platform that you focus on. So for me, LinkedIn is that platform. So I have an Instagram, I have a Twitter, I'm on Clubhouse, I'm doing some stuff on Clubhouse, which is interesting. and new. I have a YouTube. So to be fair, I do host videos on YouTube, but really, I've got a Facebook, but really, LinkedIn is where I create most of the content, and all these other platforms, they exist, and we do small amounts of stuff on them, but they're really just signposting to LinkedIn.
Okay.
And for me, that's because my ideal customer is easily identifiable on LinkedIn, much more so than on other platforms. Now, are my customers on Facebook? Absolutely, they are. But it's going to be harder for me to find them on Facebook than on LinkedIn. So Facebook, I think, I'm not doing this yet, but I think I know what I should be doing is like some retargeting and some various things like that on Facebook, but I'm not really there yet. But I put my eggs in the LinkedIn basket. Again, it's all about giving value and content. So I do a post basically every day or 6 days a week. It's all well, I would say it's 20 thought leadership / insight posts, and then one sort of mini sales pitch. But what I am trying to do is, like I said earlier, trying to get some signals and trying to get people to kind of click on something or comment or like, and then that shows me that there might be something in it, and then I can follow them up with a message or something like that, and try and just get a conversation going. So it's a bit of a system, I suppose, and again, it's like the posting is at the top of the funnel, and then the next phase is moving them further forward in the relationship.
Yeah, and so LinkedIn is and I want to dive in a little bit more, and feel free to not go through everything that you're doing, because you don't have to go into the detail, but like,
yeah.
As far as like, how people post, like there's strategies behind it. And I have a strategy that I use, and I pay attention to my metrics and see what's working. Sometimes like I expect the post to do amazing, and it doesn't, it bombs.
Yeah.
And there's one post I put out, I'm like, how the hell did this get 1,000 views?
Yeah.
And so that's something that I think you and I are still probably trying to figure out. You do quite a bit of video from what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
Does that seem to be working for you? Because I get the opposite.
What I find LinkedIn, I don't really know about these other platforms to compare, but what I find with LinkedIn is that you're right. Sometimes you do a post that you think is going to be really successful and it just doesn't. And then other days, a post that you think is kind of average does really well. I have found, I think maybe like a year ago, video was definitely the way to go. What I've been finding most recently, well, what I've always tried to do is mix it up. So, I'll try to mix it up from the perspective of doing, once a week, I'll do a post advertising my podcast, for example, where I do interviews with people in safety and risk management. Once a week, I'll do a post about something that's nothing to do with work, but like more designed to get likes and comments and engagement and just get eyeballs onto my profile. But I'll also mix it up with different types of posts. So I'll do a video, and then I'll do a document, and the documents actually seem to work quite well at the moment. So doing a PDF, and then I'll just do like a plain text post, which again sometimes do really well. And I might do a poll, or I might do an image, so just trying to keep sort of mixing it up and experimenting. I would say that video is getting less reach than it was about a year ago. One thing I find that really works well at the moment is GIFs or GIFs. I never know how to pronounce them.
I don't know either, but whatever. We know what you're talking about.
So I did one, for example, I found a funny thing of like a map showing the, say funny, it's not really funny actually if you think about it, but it was a map showing the kind of growth of COVID in the UK, like the heat map, just showing the waves.
I think I saw that.
So that one was really, that did really well, in terms of getting eyeballs. Then I've done stuff like a penguin slipping over, which is quite funny, and everything in between. So those seem to work because you get the benefit of, you get the benefit of it being almost like a video, and it's quite eye catching, but you don't get the sort of suppression, which I'm seeing a little bit recently of videos. So,
Yeah.
but I still think, video I still think is the most powerful form of content. And then the other thing is I'll do articles as well every so often.
Yeah. That's awesome. So do you write the articles in LinkedIn? So, because I know you can do that in there, or do you write it off of it? Okay.
I find with LinkedIn, and I think it's the same on most of these social platforms, but I know it is the case with LinkedIn. LinkedIn makes its money by people being on LinkedIn. So if you're doing any external links away to whether it's news articles or blogs on your website or whatever within the post itself, it seems to be penalized.
Yep.
So the secret there is, if you want to link to somewhere else, do your post, and then just at the end of the post say, and the link to this is in the first comment, and then put the link in the comment, and then that doesn't seem to affect the metrics.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen people space things out. It'd be like, Google space, and they write out dot space, and they write out com or something like that. So people have done that as well too. But no, I agree. The whole posting, the link in the comments, I do the same thing. In the past, what I've done too is, like, if I have something I want to write and it's really long, I'll write just to kind of get the thing going in the initial post, and then in the comments I expand on each one, because you're limited in characters as well too. So there's different strategies on that, but
I think it's like with most things, and I think hopefully this is coming through to the audience. It's about trying to be consistent and prolific, and not necessarily be perfect.
Yep.
So you're better off. I'm on an email marketing list for this guy who does sort of email marketing and various other things. And I saw some of his articles before, so I signed up to his email list. And he sent an email the other day saying, like, I send an email out to my list every Wednesday and every Sunday, and I'm sitting here at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, and I just don't really know what to write. So I'm just going to write about that. And then on the Sunday, he basically said, like, you won't believe this, but I've had more responses to my email on Wednesday, which again was authentic, and actually the message was, just do it, and it's better to put something out there that's a 3 out of 10 than put a 0 out of 10 because you're not doing anything. And he said, actually, I had more responses and emails to that, which was a rubbish message, than I've had for stuff that I've crafted and spent hours doing. So I think, again, it's putting yourself out there consistently, and kind of authentically is the way to go. LinkedIn is LinkedIn's is good for that, and the other thing with the algorithm on LinkedIn is, as I understand it, if you do a post on Monday and Tuesday, then the people that have viewed and interacted with the post on Monday and Tuesday are going to be most likely to see your post on the Wednesday. And that's so then keeping up that consistency of posting, you kind of ride the wave and build the momentum a bit with the people that are viewing stuff.
Interesting. I mean, I've gotten into the habit. This year I made it a commitment to post every day, and I've been living up to that. Last year, I not that I just posted randomly, but there would be pockets where I was like, I didn't do anything for a few days or something like that. But I agree with you that the whole consistency thing does work.
It doesn't have to be every day, but like if it's consistently twice a week, then that's fine. But what you want to be, even to the point, I think, of time of day. So for me, I always post at like 7 to 7:30 a.m.
Okay,
where I am, and because I think it's just good to have that rhythm, and you're then going to be visible at the same time of day, and it just helps to cement you in someone's mind, and so when they've got that problem, they know who to call. That's what it's all about.
Now, this is something that some people are against it, some people are not, but do you use a posting platform like a Hootsuite or Buffer or something like that, or do you just post natively?
I have tried those things, and what I found was that the posts didn't seem to perform as well as they would if I did it natively.
Gotcha.
So I don't do that, but I do. There's a lot of discussion around kind of automations and things in LinkedIn. I think strictly speaking, you're not supposed to use any automations on LinkedIn, but there are a few things that you can use that will just help to to do certain things. So there are tools that you can find that will sort of like people's posts for you and things like that if you want to go down that route.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
I did for a while actually outsource some of my LinkedIn. So I had a company that was kind of trying to grow my network for me. So they would identify relevant people, and send them a connection request, and then send them a message to follow up. But I stopped doing that because I kind of felt like it wasn't very authentic, and therefore
Gotcha.
it just didn't really sit kind of comfortably.
No, I respect that. Like everyone has to do something a little differently that works for them. I mean, I guess the best way I can look at this is, going back to Gary Vaynerchuk. I mean, the guy does all of his posts, and he replies to every single thing that he posts on whenever he has time, obviously. So I get that. Like we should be the ones, engaging with that part. Something that you'd mentioned. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say for your audience, because they might be here thinking, oh, well, LinkedIn isn't the place for me to go. But actually, I would say it is, because you can target people by location, you can target them by seniority and stuff like that. So if you want to be thinking, right, I want to be targeting, managers or C-suite people in a certain area, you can use LinkedIn to target those people. And actually, you've probably got more chance of getting through to them on LinkedIn than you have on Facebook.
I 100% agree. And you mentioned earlier that you're using Sales Navigator to kind of help with this kind of stuff. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So explain a little bit more about Sales Navigator so that people kind of understand it.
So basically, Sales Navigator is like a premium version of LinkedIn, and you pay, I think it's maybe about $100 a month, so it's not cheap.
For us,
but actually,
I think it's $80 a month for us.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So it's not cheap, but if you think, well, I'm going to do that for a year, that's a fair bit of money. But if you're running your own business, but you get a lot more functionality. It's particularly powerful around searching, and so you can be a massively more targeted in terms of who you're searching for, and you really drill down into people you want to contact.
Yep.
And then you've also got kind of what they call in-mails, which are you can send messages to people you're not connected with. So normally on LinkedIn, you have to be able to be connected with somebody to send them a message, like a DM. Yep. Whereas with these in-mails, you can send the DMs to anybody. And if you want a good crash course on DMs, do a Google for John Rosso Sandler training LinkedIn in-mail, and he's written a good book as well called How to Prospect the Sandler Way. But he's got a really good template for how to do a good in-mail message of 100 words.
Nice. I like that. No, and I mean, I've been using Sales Navigator for quite some time myself. I love it. It's a great way to narrow down. And like what you said is like, you can start connecting with people that make sense for your business. So if you are like what you're saying, like you want to get more targeted towards a certain type of employee or a certain type of executive, you can start connecting with those types of people. Even if they're like in a company, like you want to do, a specific company that you want to go after, and you want to start connecting with those folks, like you can start, narrowing it down and getting very specific. And what I love about it too is that once you start what we call like you create like safe searches, you can start seeing their activity. Yeah. So if they're posting something, you can then go on there and post something like a comment or a like or whatever that is. And
and that's a key point actually, which I hadn't mentioned, is it's called social media because you should be social. So actually one of the best ways of getting noticed by your potential prospects is by going and engaging with their post, but not in a salesy way. So don't like hijack their post and put a sales message on there, but actually, just put something thoughtful and have empathy.
Yep.
And actually that will, because everybody that posts on LinkedIn, reads every comment that anyone does on their post, and they notice every like. So, and that's even me, who's probably among the top like 1% of, not in terms of reach or anything or quality or anything, but in terms of uh, outputs, I'm probably within the top 1% on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I still know everybody, I see every comment, I see every like, so that resonates with me. So that will definitely, most people don't post anywhere near as much as me, don't get as many comments and likes as me, and therefore it will resonate even more with them. So that's a really good way of getting on their radar.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense.
And
And
then if you back that, sorry to, as I
no, go
say, if
for it.
you, that then needs to be backed up by a good profile, and going back to what we said earlier, some
Yep.
thought leadership and some opinions and some positioning and stuff. And then that's when you're in a good position, because oh, who's this guy or girl? They just commented this, so that's interesting. I'll
Yep.
click on their profile, check them out. Oh wow, this is what they do. They're really clear. They've got a point of view. They look, they come across well. Um, yeah, I'll log either. Actually, I'm going to call them now because I need that, or I'll log that in my mind, and as and when I need that service, therefore I'll come to.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you're saying all this, because that's and that's the thing about that people miss, is it's like what you said, you have to be social on social media. And the other part is it's that it should be you, the brand, not your company. So like you're not
Yeah,
commenting as Slip Safety Services, you're commenting as Christian, like
yeah.
excuse me.
So so there are three brands. Again, I've got to give him credit, because if he ever listens to this, he'll have a go at me if I don't. But this is another thing I learned from Daniel Priestley. There are three brands. There's a company brand, so Apple. There's a product brand, so iPhone, and there's a personal brand, so Tim Cook or Steve Jobs. And if you look at every single business leader versus their brand, and you look at their social media following, for example, the personal brand is like 10, 20, 50 times as big as the company brand, because uh, we don't do business with companies. I mean, we do, but you want, like and trust people, not companies, and you resonate with people, and you want to do business with people,
Exactly.
not a company. So that's why you want to be putting yourself out there and getting your face out there. And even if you're not doing videos, if you're not comfortable, do a bit of otter. Just put a picture of you smiling or doing an action shot or something, and then talk over it. And that's better than just doing uh, an article or something. But just get yourself out there.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And this is great advice. I mean, and I'm glad that we're diving into the LinkedIn piece, because I don't think it gets its fair shake. A lot of people still kind of look at it as like it's only a business professional network, and I think it's there's more to it.
Mm.
And there's a lot of tools that you cannot find on Facebook or on Twitter, and vice versa. There's things on Facebook that are better for like a home services company that are like landscaping or plumbing. I think they can leverage a lot on LinkedIn. Like, will their audience more likely be on Facebook? Yeah, more than likely. But I think there's another way of you connecting with these people in a different area.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to bear in mind is it's all about context as well. So
Mm-hmm.
if I'm on Facebook, unless I'm visiting like a group, which is obviously a big thing on Facebook right now, but I'm pretty much going to like check out what my friends are doing. I don't really, you know, I don't really want to be hassled with a sales message.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of course I'll click. I'm sure I must have clicked on some ads and stuff, but whereas LinkedIn, it's because it is a professional platform, you kind of that people are there to do business, if that
Yep.
makes sense. So
Yep.
the context is important as well.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. It's no different from like different TV channels. You've
Hmm.
got, a channel that talks about this, that talks about sports, and then another channel talks about politics or news or whatever. And a lot of the times those two channels don't really, mesh with each other. So you
Hmm.
got to know what channel you're on and speak that language, if you will. So no, that makes
Yeah,
complete sense.
yeah,
Great stuff.
yeah, definitely. And that's why don't put too many posts about like fluffy kittens on LinkedIn either.
I totally agree. That's awesome. Was there anything else that you want to share with us, man? Like you've covered literally a lot of great stuff.
No, I feel a bit selfish. I've not shared much, but no, I think we've covered a lot of ground actually. I mean, look, what I'd say to people is, come and connect on LinkedIn if you're there, and engage with some of the posts that I'm doing. And actually, you can, quite a few people who are in the kind of health and safety world have said to me, "Oh, can I sort of copy this idea or whatever?" Which is fine by me. I don't care. So kind of come and be inspired and see what works, and a bit of a crash course.
Yeah.
And obviously after following you first, of course, but feel free to come and have a look at what we're doing.
And they can connect with you on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And so what's your handle there? I think you have, what is it?
To be honest, if you search for Christian Harris, I'd be surprised if I don't come up first on LinkedIn. But if you search for Christian Harris slip, then I'll definitely come up.
That's awesome. So, I mean, that you've clearly done something, right to get yourself up there.
Yeah, well, I think, I was quite pleased the other day, actually, because I probably about 6 months ago, I did, when you kind of do the private search on Google, and I just Googled my name, and I didn't come anywhere. Whereas if I Googled for Christian Harris slip or Christian Harris safety or Christian Harris risk, then I was at the top. But the other day I Googled myself, just my name, and I had 2 of the top 10. So that was quite cool.
Nice.
There's like a linebacker that plays college football or something. So he's quite hard to displace on Google with the same name as me and a couple of other people. But so I'm starting to become web famous.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, this was great, man. I'm glad that you're able to jump on, and if there's other things that you feel like you didn't get a chance to share, then I say we schedule a follow-up interview on diving into maybe even more on what you've been doing with the LinkedIn piece, because there's so much to it. I mean, what I want people to get is that there's not one thing that works for everybody, but it's just finding what works best for you. And then leveraging your skill sets for that. And you did exactly that. You figured out what works best for you. And
I think it's what works best for you. And I think these two points are joined, but it's what works best for you and what you enjoy doing, because marketing, it's arguably the most, I mean, if you're a business owner and you're on the tools and you're doing the work, you might say, well, the most important thing is the quality of the work. But actually, there's a very strong argument that marketing is the most important function of any business.
Yep.
And so if it's that important, you need to try and find a way to enjoy it, because I think marketing isn't personally something that you can't fully outsource your marketing. I think you can outsource elements of your marketing, absolutely. But like we said, it needs to be your brand, and your vision and your authenticity need to be there. So you've got to be diving in and being a part of it, not necessarily like doing every single last thing. Depends where you are in your business journey, but you've got to be involved. So you've got to find a way that works for you in terms of results, but it also works for you in terms of you enjoy doing it, and you want to do it, and you want to invest the time in it because you enjoy doing it as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love it, man. So this was great stuff. I appreciate your time. Again, this is Christian Harris. He's with Slip Safety Services and based out of the UK. He went over some pretty amazing stuff. So if you guys have any questions, again, you should reach out and connect with him on LinkedIn. You can also connect with me. And this podcast will be distributed in other social media platforms. So you can definitely get it on, Apple, but you'll also be getting in other platforms as well too. Thanks for your time again, Christian. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Trust Tipping Point Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Javier Lozano Jr. A lot of home services companies come to us at Anchorway needing help with their overall marketing strategy and their digital presence. So what we ended up doing is creating a custom marketing playbook to help businesses just like yours in the home services space have an improved digital marketing roadmap for 2021. One of the highlights during this home services custom playbook is the importance of having a marketing hub, which we call as a website killer. And I'll be honest here, today's websites are dead, outdated, and ineffective. After 17 years and 1,300 plus websites, we've discovered the best approach to increase customer activity and to win more business is by having a marketing hub. A marketing hub will help set your home services business apart from your competition and place you as a leader in your space. So to learn more about what a marketing hub is, Schedule a free custom home services playbook by going to anchorwave.com/playbook. You're going to answer 7 simple questions and we'll give you free access to this playbook. Again, go to anchorwave.com/playbook to get free access to our home services digital marketing playbook.